Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Teach Talk. We're not surprised the camera's on. We knew it was going to be on. It's the end of our teaching semester. I'm AJ.
I'm Lisa.
And we are here to talk about schooling, education, teaching, learning, hopefully students and communities, and offer a place for authentic dialogue and hopefully interaction.
Yes, please.
Users.
Take it for what it's worth. Authentic discussion on education.
We're going to do our best.
We're happy to be here.
Yeah.
It's Friday of finals week.
And
we're feeling it.
Yeah, we're gonna do our best to, I think, give you our opinions and challenge you to think about stuff. And hopefully you're challenging us to think about stuff about education as well. So we answer questions live on the air. That's what we do. Yay. This is potentially, Lisa wanted us to go over this, and I think it's appropriate. It's our last show of the semester live.
Yes.
What we're going to try and do is do some taped, pre-taped shows over the summer.
Non-live, yet recorded.
Yeah, and we're working on podcasting them. I'm working on podcasting them. So some of you have asked if you could get them in podcast form. Sure, we'll get that done in the summer.
Over the summer.
Totally. And we do appreciate the interaction. We appreciate everyone's engagement. We've really enjoyed this semester, our first semester on the radio. It's been fun, right?
It has been fun.
Yeah.
I enjoy every other Friday morning.
You know, I'm thinking right now, so we haven't talked about this. This is live.
Oh boy.
We could just randomly go live. We could be like, hey guys, this Friday. Yeah, so that might happen.
Right. I thought about, we should just go live at graduation tomorrow. I think it'd be so fun.
I don't know what that would look like.
It would look like Lisa holding her phone like this.
Yeah. Well, actually, it would be the reflection of. Let's get into questions because we I'll do it live at graduation, quietly watching.
Fantastic.
I don't know if that's gonna happen, y'all.
It might be great.
This isn't doing what you want.
Do you want to go into the first question and then we'll fix that as we go?
Sure.
Okay.
Technology.
Ready? Oh, I like this question already.
We're not supposed to judge them.
What? I like this question already. What is/was your data collection strategy like, and how do you know what to keep?
As a teacher,
I love data collection.
So what is/was your data collection strategy like, and how did you know what to keep?
Yes,
that's the question.
It's a good question. It depends on your position too, on what you're teaching, who you're teaching.
When I first started teaching in the 90s. Late 90s.
Was data collection.
Well, I mean, data collection was a thing, but I was giving like the traditional spelling tests to my third graders. Right. And you know, I was giving summative, and when I taught high school, I was giving summative social studies history tests with multiple choice and such. Like my data collection was probably very behaviorist. It was probably very essentialist in its nature. I had not formed sort of my philosophy about the way I have it now. So it was very in line with what I thought I knew about teaching and learning, which was regurgitative.
Never heard that word.
Someone check that one. Regurgitive.
It was all regurgitation.
Regurgitative.
We make up words here. Right. How did you change and why?
Whoa, that's not a question.
I'm extending the conversation.
Totally. Somebody else please chime in and help. How did I change and why? I think as I became more student focused. So I mean, this is pretty live right now, but live thought process, because I didn't know this question was coming. I probably started out pretty teacher centered in my philosophy, thinking it was about my teaching, and therefore grades sort of reflected that. As I realized probably fairly quickly that I was more student centered in my beliefs, and that teaching was, but I wasn't very conscious. You and I were reading philosophy of ed papers yesterday.
So fun.
From students and going, oh,
we were not that self-aware.
If we were that enlightened, that self-aware, like this I'm so pumped. One of the reasons we're here on the radio, and this is important, and one of the reasons we do what we do and get on here and we're goofy every week, I'm pumped about this next generation of teachers. Like there's a serious ton of hope in all of you. Like I right?
It's exciting. Yeah. It's not even my class, and I like reading the papers.
And my point being, I was not that evolved, intuitive. There's so many words I could use for some of these papers. And then I read the ones that, are more like where I was, and I have to sort of recalibrate and go, wait a minute, that's probably appropriate. So you asked me a question, which was how and why. Over time, how long, years,
Mhm.
becoming more and more student focused and realizing this is about growth. Like
Right.
even that
Right.
simple idea that like I have to put this standard aside or this grade level
Mhm.
expectation aside and go,
Right.
where is this student at?
Mhm.
What's the next step? And oh, you're in a sixth grade classroom, but you're reading at a third grade level.
Mhm.
Let's go get some second grade standards and go from there.
Right.
Well, I didn't have that at first.
Right.
No one told me that.
Mhm.
So your question was how and why. I think
Mhm.
over time recognizing that it was about student needs and meeting student needs, and then my data collection started to change. It became more anecdotal,
Mhm.
and during that time I was moving from teaching high school, junior high to teaching elementary school, and then
Okay.
actually swinging back to junior high and then coming back to junior high with that
Right.
understanding. So that was a lot of fun. Things were more anecdotal. There were still grades involved and there were still tests. There was much more formative assessment.
Mhm.
I'm going to shut up in a moment and let you answer the questions. You've had time to think, um, but yeah, and it was a lot more, what I learned was it was a lot more authentic. So the specific question is what types of things that I do. Let's hear from Lisa and I'll come back
Right.
around to some of those things.
I
And
love
I'll talk
data
about
collection.
what I do now as well.
Oh yeah. In the world of special education, data collection is a large majority of what you do, and so it looks much different classroom to classroom and program to program. And some of the times we have 5 to 8 other adults in the room who are also a large majority of what you do. Look at that.
Got it.
It's echoing. There is, this team. So you have this team of people who are also collecting that data for you based on student progress and needs. But what you don't consider is, oh, those are helping hands. It's so much more difficult to plan for like a whole team of people to collect your data. So you've really got to have yourself together. And the way that I did that was I did have more, I guess, behaviorist style of collecting the data because I had to.
There's
in
a space
certain
for that,
areas.
though. I think there's a space
I
for
did
that. Yeah.
half and half. So you have to collect data on IEP goals to demonstrate progress towards those individualized goals. And you have to report that quarterly. So we report at the same time as report cards from the general education teachers. And you should have a say in their grade in the classroom. That's a whole different conversation. But
It's connected.
It is connected. So I at least did some formal progress monitoring using like grade level probes that had, benchmarks and percentiles and things like that. At least 1 to 2 times a month, usually 2 times a month, to demonstrate growth towards grade level progress. And then everything else that I collected, I did individualized data sheets based on the student goals and their needs and their accommodations. And that was taken weekly. So my paraprofessionals and I looked at that data weekly. Every Friday it was collected, we looked at it, and we used it to inform instruction. So it wasn't just to, that's the important piece.
Yeah, that's
you don't just take it and take the numbers and keep some of the student work because, it shows some progress across time. It's actually used to inform your instruction.
And it's how. So I want to shift the conversation to how, like I'm listening to you and going, wow, you're good. Like that's good. And a lot of that is maybe the special ed world, but I don't.
Yeah, you're trained.
I don't think it needs to be just that, or
No.
it needs to be the. So
Right.
so building on that. How do we use that data? What do we do? How do we interpret? Let's even go there. How do we interpret that data?
Right.
How do we and then how do we use it? What do we do? How does it inform instruction?
Right. I was really up at the very beginning. I knew that there were authentic ways to collect assessment and inauthentic ways. And so the way that I collected assessment for my student goals was to take it directly from their work. Because am I not addressing their IEP goals in my instruction? That's the point. Not only addressing the skills for their IEP goals, but holistically, I'm looking at individual skills in isolation. I'm looking at how they're contextualizing that across environments. I'm looking at how they're applying that to higher level skills. And so when I do that in my small group, I'm taking work samples, and that's where I get my data. If the student has an IEP goal of triple digit multiplication with regrouping, I'm not going to print off a sheet and give it to them once a week. I'm taking it from the instruction that we're providing because that should be taken into consideration as you're forming your instruction. So I know that student goal is something I need to be working on. I'm going to hit it at least a couple times a week. and I'm going to include it in the cyclical nature of my instruction.
It's the spiraling of your instruction.
Right, the spiraling of my instruction. So I'm taking the data right from their work. So I didn't ever give, here's your assessment for the week, unless it was like an Ames Web probe that I needed to do that because they're standardized and you know, normed.
Yeah, I did for sure. I gave those. I started to give a lot more. So there's so many things in my head right now. Like we could talk for the next hour about assessment and data. And you asked about data. And I pulled up. So spiraled curriculum is something to look up if we're sharing resources. I think that's something many of us get in our coursework, studying as teachers. But it's something if you're more of a novice teacher or someone who hasn't heard that term, I would recommend you look up spiraled curriculum. And that idea of, I see it. I think too often. No, I see it too often. This idea that, okay, we finished that, it's done. Let's put it over there. And now we're going to learn something different.
Moving on.
And it's like, shouldn't there be some sort of, shouldn't we be building on? Yeah, and coming back to, and hey, remember. So that's something. But I also pulled up, because Lisa, you're talking about this, and I'm sure, I don't know if I'm sure you recognize that you are. Assessment for learning. So assessment for and as learning. And I think that's something really, it's germane to this conversation. It doesn't answer the question, but it answers a different question. And so when we do a lot of summative assessing and even some formative assessing, we're assessing, did learning occur? And what learning occurred? And
at what proficiency level and at what independence level?
But we also, and I'm just I pulled this up and we'll share it as well. The idea of assessment as learning. So we're using the assessments to help students learn about what they know and help them learn about themselves.
And help us inform instruction.
Yeah, that's super important though, that they're involved. Assessment, traditionally, at least for me, was very much, here's the test, and then this is going to tell me what you know or don't know.
We need some of that.
Well, right, and that goes back to
But it can look different ways.
Yeah, and that goes back to your point about, or the word you used, which was, I guess it was behaviorist. Yeah, we need some behaviorism, we need some constructivism, we need some cognitive, we need all that.
Let's just call it organization or structure, you know? I mean,
but I don't want to make any of those the bad guy, right? We need a little bit of all of that, but if there's some continuum between a social constructivist approach to assessment and a behaviorist approach, maybe it's a Dewey Thorndike, or I don't know, like, okay, I get it. We need all of that, and we need the overlap between, and that's why I think about for of as learning and considering that. I mean, the type of data that's most valuable to me comes back to a resource that we've shared before, which is understanding by design, which is backward design, Wiggins and McTighe. I think I probably bring it up every week. I'm a one-trick unicorn. I don't have my unicorn with me this week, but a one-trick pony. And this idea of assessment of understanding for understanding as understanding, and so the 6 facets that Wiggins and McTighe have, their 6 facets of understanding. We've talked about it, but I want to know that the kids can empathize, that they can apply, that they can, that they know what they're doing. So
they know the value of it. They can see its purposes beyond just this classroom, this unit. I understand how it builds my independence as a human being. Right?
You were reading philosophy of ed papers yesterday, weren't you there, Lisa?
I got smarter yesterday. But I should say, too, in all of that, so we've named a lot of different formative and summative assessments, and we've named progress monitoring tools. If you are looking at a student who is at risk of meeting grade level proficiencies and they're going through the RTI process or being considered for special education services, there does have to be a certain amount and number of data points that you demonstrate if you're thinking about the tier of intervention. At tier 1 and tier 2, you need to have at least 6 to 9 weeks of data in every single academic skill area of concern. And so that means that interventions have to happen and you have to have data points to demonstrate if you're heading that direction towards response to intervention for those who are not meeting grade levels. So there is the required pieces that you need. There's some structure and requirements.
But let me, may I? Or do you have more?
You're fine, go.
I almost cut you off.
You're good.
Don't you just want to know if kids are learning and understanding? Like, isn't that just, so that's not really to you, but, and the rhetoric is clear there, but like, yeah, there needs to be, I mean, we've had this conversation at the university level, like how many data points do we need? How many times do we have to observe a student teacher? Like, don't you just want to get in there and know as much as possible? And of course, there's limits to resources. there's limits to your time.
And time, right,
Mm-hmm.
right.
That's one of the resources, right? So, but early and often,
yes,
I want to know where my kids are at. I want to know where my students are at right away. In relation to standards, sure.
I know. It makes it sound so overwhelming, especially if you're not trained. I think what I found for students who come to me who are just gaining, general ed certification, it seems so huge and big. And it seems huge and big.
Both of them.
Synonyms. It seems so overwhelming because our students with that are getting special education certification, they're trained specifically in how to, in more data collection ways, as should our gen ed students be.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
But they're coming at it from a different angle.
Yes.
They just are. And so it seems huge and overwhelming. How am I supposed to progress monitor all of my students once a month? Are you kidding me, Lisa? How am I supposed to do that? And how do I use that to inform instruction? And reach out to the experts in your building. Your special ed teacher should be the instructional expert on those issues. And so reach out to see how they can help. Your administrator, get parent volunteers in, train them on the administration of, use your resources and use your people so that you can get the data you want, but it doesn't take all your time, energy, and it doesn't seem huge to you, overwhelming. You're looking at me like you're curious.
I'm thinking you want to do a radio show, and what you get is me live thinking, which is sometimes me live. So I'm listening to everything you say, and I'm processing, and I'm going, well, what's going on in my head right now is why is teaching and planning and why are those things separated?
Why are they separated?
Yeah, so why?
Right.
When you said the words, and I've been thinking on it since you said it, so I'm trying to be as actively engaged as I can.
Mm-hmm.
But you said, something to the effect of special education teachers are trained specifically and general ed teachers are not trained as specifically. I'm going.
I'm saying
you're right.
In certain, how to read percentiles, how to
mm-hmm. and interpreting data is so. I've said
calculate
that already.
Rate of improvement, those kind of things.
Yeah.
Why does everybody not?
Yeah, and still, why is it? And we even separate it in terms of how we teach it to special ed students.
Right, we have a specific course, don't we?
Why? Yeah. Why isn't everything we do about? And I really want you to wonder this. So when you ask what kind of data we collected, I corrected weekly spelling test grades, and as I got good, I collected daily exit slips, and I did little formative assessments, and I had observations, and I had more checklists and anecdotal record stuff, and stuff that may have been done in an early childhood setting that I was doing in a fourth, and even as I learned to do more performance assessment. I didn't even know what to call it.
Right.
And I loved that we had projects, and then I learned about rubrics, and I became this enlightened person who was rubricizing everything.
Rubricizing. And you have good words today.
Thank you. I have all the words. I have the best words. You walked right into that. You walked right into that one. But now I use rubrics all the time, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then there's that behaviorist, right? Back to that constructivist continuum that I created arbitrarily. And now I use rubrics a lot. And I actually said to a student yesterday afternoon, I said, well, I had a student turn in a paper. There was a really nice paper. I'll share this. It was really well written that was not connected at all to the assignment. It was tangentially connected to the assignment. Let me be fair. It was nice for what it was. And I put it up against the rubric, which we went over 1,000 times. And I went, you didn't address these topics. So nice paper, but it ends up you failed. You didn't address what you were asked to address. So in that world where a student can write a nice paper that's thoughtful and that's cool, that addresses some stuff from class, but it doesn't address what you were asked to address.
And your assessment is the purpose, the intent of that thought process of the assignment, right?
Yeah.
It's not just to compare to a rubric, but that rubric is instating on you
in this case
purpose, the intent of.
In this case, we had a lot of process throughout the class. There's a lot of processing. This particular student did amazing processing. I have tons of anecdotal evidence of formative evidence
throughout the semester.
Yeah, but this is a summative piece where you've connected all these ideas.
Right.
And can share. There's a little bit of regurgitation there,
right?
But really, I want to see how you're thinking about this. And you've read some of the papers, so I feel like I can. That it's disheartening, and it's a struggle. So what I guess where that's taking me to is, and I saw this with a lot of folks this semester as well. You need to know what you're assessing. You need to know what you're back to backward design, back to understanding by design. You need to know what you want them to know, understand, and be able to do, and what you'll accept as evidence. And when I create a rubric, I'm saying this is what I'll accept as evidence that you know, understand, and are able to do that.
Right.
Maybe my rubric isn't the greatest rubric in the world, but yeah, so I'm doing some self-reflection here.
But you also need to, as the teacher, know why, and they also need to know why. Like throwing a rubric at them for a paper that says grammar,
right? Okay, I thought you were accusing me. I was something offensive.
No. But they need to know why, and you need to know why. And I think I lost my train of thought there. Wow, stop.
Well, but our point is, and Jump just cut me off. Our point is, or the current point is, if you don't ask the right questions, you're not going to get the right answers. And so, questions. Go.
I remember.
Yep.
I use self-evaluation too. I ask them, especially at the college level, but I would do this down to kindergarten, to be very honest. I would have them self-assess, self-evaluate. I do peer evaluations a lot at the college level. I don't know why we that's a different conversation. Shy away from watching each other teach and
why we I don't know shy away from that either.
So we use assessment a lot, and there's a lot of options. We've been on this question for like 20 minutes. So
we need to wrap it up, but let's wrap it up where we were,
right?
Because you need to know what you're looking for. I think that's a struggle I see in new teachers the most is they're not exactly sure what they want. So they ask a question, they get data back, and they go, "This tells me nothing."
Right.
So if you don't know what you're looking for, don't just give quizzes or exit slips or. I heard someone recently be like, okay, as you leave the door, I'd like you to write down the answer to this question. And then as she walked around the room, she was like, okay, let me repeat the question. And it was a different question. And then there were two teachers in the room co-teaching. He repeated it and it was slightly different. So I said to them, that data, I'm not going to say it's useless, but you asked 3 different questions.
Right.
So you're going to get input output, right? You're going to get, so
know what you're assessing and why.
Yep.
Use it to inform instruction and take a lot of data. Create a preponderance of evidence. One data point will never be enough. And use it to inform your instruction. That's the key. Start there if nothing else. That whatever you collect, use it to inform your instruction. And if you want additional, like we could talk about this for hours. So if you want additional insight, come and chat with us. We're
chat live.
Data nerve, so I'd love to. Yeah. Do you have any questions prepped, or do you want to go to the next?
We have all these. Okay,
so
we're looking down our questions.
Just any of them, really.
Thanks.
Go for it.
I'm gonna go in order then.
The anticipation.
It's a long one. Okay. So yeah, I got to scroll across. Ready? I'm just gonna. This is dialogue because it refers back to a question from our first show.
That's exciting.
There was a question about when a teacher wants a kiddo pulled the whole time in the first talk. But I want to know what to do if you don't want a kid pulled so much and they keep getting pulled. I'm in a classroom right now where the kid is gone for instruction and then back in the classroom in the middle of a project. The teacher resorts to silly worksheets and computer programs, and that is so scary too. It seems like this won't scroll anymore. I think we got the question. It seems like yeah. So the question is what we addressed on the show was the question was, what about a teacher? It's like, oh, he can't learn in my classroom. She can't learn in my classroom. This child needs to be in the resource room. And we obviously pushed back against that. And we asked you to consider perspective. This question asks us to consider from the other. What about your teacher?
Seems like a vicious cycle, she said. Seems like a vicious cycle. I guess it's about balance between the two and planning, ? SOS.
Yeah, so it is. Wow, you answered your own question. It is about collaboration between the teacher.
I'm assuming this is a student receiving services outside of the gen ed classroom is what I'm assuming.
Yes, so this could be ELL, it could be title, it could be special, it could be a lot of things. Speech, it could be so many things. Yeah. Do you want to lead off? Because I'll go on for hours.
I think the desire is beautiful that she stated is basically I want this student, he or she, we know it was a she, but
I don't actually know who it was. That's great. Okay.
I want this student a part of my classroom because they are a part of my classroom, regardless of additional services that they're providing outside of my classroom. They're here and they're ours. And I appreciate that immensely. That concept that all students are our students is actually unique and more rare than I would hope to admit. So I appreciate that to begin with. And I would say that you ask the student how they would like to be, they leave in the middle of a project, and ask them, say, when you come back in, I want to get you right back in instruction. I want you to be here with us. I want you to feel like you're caught up. You understand the expectations. What's the best way that we can do that for you? Do you want me to, hang a clipboard by the front door and it'll tell you exactly what we're doing, the steps you need to take? Do you want me to buddy you up with a peer in the class so that they can catch you up real quick and then get you back into the instruction? Ask them what they prefer, because depending on grade and or student self-awareness, I suppose, they don't like leaving the classroom either, and they don't like the in and out, and it's a struggle for them to reacclimate to whatever environment that they're doing, the demands that their little body and mind are going through, and their heart. And so being really respectful of what they want and how they want to be most authentically included in your classroom. Start there. That's what I would say.
Yeah, that's what you did say.
That's what I did say.
Yeah. I'm doing the turning from judgment to wonder thing, because I wanted to initially talk about the teacher.
Right.
My wonder is, I'm going to reframe it though. Everyone's trying to do their job, most likely. Like, I want to assume good intentions and say,
yes,
the gen ed teacher, whomever the teacher is who's pulling out for some reason, whoever was involved in maybe creating an IEP or saying this student, their language learning level is that, whatever the reason, everyone's trying to best serve the student, but everyone thinks that the best way to serve the student is a little bit different. Right. So you ended your question with the writer with this idea of collaboration. Maybe this is just about the teachers not working together as much as they could.
Perhaps. Or knowledge level of the teacher, or comfort level of the teacher and their ability to do this.
Yeah.
And to reach out when they're not quite sure.
And group, and group understanding of what's kind of our mission and goal and idea. And that's what we do in IEP meetings in theory, right? We try to bring all that together. And how do we best serve kids? I mean, I'm in the classroom the other day, and before I walked into the classroom, I said to those who I was with, I said, you might see a child sitting alone in the back of the classroom on an iPad in here while the rest of the students are on the learning carpet learning. We'll problematize it later. And of course we did see that. And when I frame it, it looks as bad as I framed it, because I framed it that way.
Just because they're in the classroom doesn't mean they're a part of the classroom.
Right. But someone could say, well, that student is using this particular program that is actually helping them learn, and we're trying to get her to the learning carpet. Right? I want to value those different perspectives on what it means to learn, the potential lack of knowledge or lack of understanding of how we integrate.
Right.
Really what I want to do is I want to rip the iPad out of her hand and put her on the carpet. Okay. Right. And I've done that. But on this show,
gently taking
on this show, I'd like us to wonder.
Right.
And I think what you did there, I'm very frustrated by the amount of pulling out that goes on. But in a lot of schools and through Title I services, this is maybe the best way
to what students need.
Folks have figured out to meet students' needs. And so the fact that those resources are there, I think the question could be reframed as, how do we best take advantage of these resources? And how do those folks who are providing extra services, supplementary services, best take advantage of the classroom and the classroom teacher? What's our goal for again, it's backward design. I'm going to keep going there. What's our goal for the student? What are our goals for the student? How does the student learn best? What do we know about the student? How can that best be served? Well, actually, in this environment right now, it wouldn't be best served. Maybe those are the conversations that have to happen. Which
is initially why we discussed least restrictive environment for the students.
Right.
But here, judgment or experience, whether or not it's one or the other, sometimes when we're sitting down to support the student and consider least restrictive environment, we think of what services are we currently providing and how can the student fit into those. That is not the way to do it.
But that's about resources, right? Including time.
It could absolutely be resources.
I wonder.
There are resources everywhere.
Hey,
and
that's
if
last
your
week's show.
student needs something else, you go find it.
Yeah.
So when you're considering least restrictive environment and the resource, it would have been very easy to say, yeah, all of my students receive 30 minutes of services a day. This is when the third grade group comes to my classroom. We'll plug them right in. That's not least restrictive environment.
Right.
That's fitting a puzzle into, a puzzle piece into a puzzle that might not fit. But there's a lot of talk about, things that you're saying, inclusion, not inclusion, or
well, there's some philosophical. I mean, philosophically,
right.
This is also about listen. So there's the idea of meeting the group's needs at the same time as meeting the individual's needs as well. And like, listen, I get it. I want her to be out of the classroom because you're right. I can go here with the students when she's not in the classroom. I have to teach it this way. However, it's best for her if she's in the room. And then does that change the pace of the learning for others? Well, why are you doing everything whole group anyway? So now let's talk about small group. And this is the collaborative. Again, the end of the question was, I think, about collaborative. Like that part that I almost missed was about, could this just be a communicate? Well, sure. It's a paradigm thing though too, right? It's so much deeper. Shift, but what can you do as a teacher? You can start those conversations. Yes, please. You can, within your building, within your grade level team, with whatever services. And by the way, there are a lot of buildings that don't have a lot of these pull-out services. So there are teachers out there going, I have no idea what you're talking about. Right. I'm frustrated when 8 kids get up and leave from a classroom. And then it's like, okay, now I'm going to teach my 12. And I'm like,
and part of that
but
is
there are reasons.
Right. Part of that is resources. Part of that is timing and the support individuals in your building.
So balance.
Looking at their own schedules to say what is the most convenient time to pull them out.
That's the puzzle again, though, Lise. But starting the conversation, like if I can have like, woo. Your role can be to start that conversation and go, how can we better serve?
Right. And
it would.
Yeah, go ahead.
No,
you're bouncing.
No, that's good.
Here's my unicorn. I don't even have it. In the ideal world, I would not have a job. And I've said this before, because special education would not be a thing. It would not be necessary because we're all meeting the needs of every individual student within the whole group setting. So there would be no need for pullout. There would need no, there's always conversations about students with more significant needs and how, how can we best support them and their family and their end result goals. But if we were doing what we have the potential to do, I wouldn't have a job. And I would be so happy about it.
That is some deep stuff, Lise.
Well, it's just what you... Don't give me credit for being a deep thinker or anything. No. I mean, really. I am. Really. That credit. I would be excited about the day that they told me I don't need to be here.
You get one unicorn credit for that deep thought.
Ding.
The unicorn's name is Alfie. It's an Alfie credit.
It's an Alfie credit.
So to answer the question and to wrap up our neat bow, and we actually have a live chime in from a listener. It's right here on my phone.
I'm so excited.
You see what it is. But let's wrap up our neat bow.
So I'm not going to say your name, but you who wrote the beautiful question, start the conversation.
Start the conversation. Yeah. Be the person in the building who says, how can we best do this? And maybe that's either a very large conversation or it's a small conversation in some cases. In some cases, it's particularly about my student, Lisa. And when I teach social studies on Thursdays from 2 to 2:45, can we do this? That might be the starting point, but the starting point also might be bigger in a group collaboration or PLC or something. So you have to gauge that. It might be both and, right? It might be that you start these conversations.
Right. Be the wanderer.
Yeah. Inquisitive. Okay. Here's the chime in. Hope that helped.
Happy Teacher Appreciation Week, by the way.
Yay. We appreciate everybody.
It's actually,
we do. Yeah.
Anyways, we have 2 Teacher Appreciation Weeks this year. The calendar.
We appreciate the heck out of teachers
all the time
and listeners
every day.
And listen, if you listen, you will be appreciated, and you will get Alfie credits as well. We should start giving out Alfie credits, like little stickers. Alfie credit.
Positive reinforcement.
Behavior. Davey chimes in as a listener. Hi, Davey, and says she looked up regurgitative.
Oh no! You looked it up. Is it a word?
Regurgitative is a word. Regurgitative. Regurgitative. Thank you. We don't have a pronunciation here, Davey, but thank you. We're going to do one last question.
Well worth the time.
Well done, Davey. You saved me. One last question.
All right. So this one said, do you want to go down to one that's a non-educator question?
You do.
Well.
So you shall.
Okay. Let's see. I'm just going to do this one. Okay, what's a creative method for selecting a student for an answer besides having them raise their hands? And I'll add pulling popsicle sticks.
Oh, you're saying besides the pulling popsicle sticks?
Well,
then you've
they're
exhausted
asking.
my answer.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm kidding.
Don't pull the popsicle stick.
No, don't
well,
be
I
against
mean,
the popsicles. What's a creative method for
selecting a student for an answer besides having them raise their hands?
Let's just put a question mark there. Yeah, what's a creative way for having them?
That goes back to assessment too. Ish.
Totally. It's completely connected. It goes back to classroom management. It goes back to engagement. It goes back to everything about teaching.
I think
so first we have the tried and true tradition. T's there. What were we doing? What letter were we doing this morning?
T.
Oh, right on.
We were coming up with synonyms.
Transformative.
Synonyms is a theme today.
Yeah, transform. No, those weren't synonyms. They were alliterations. We were doing all the T's. Anyways. Although we did synonyms today this morning, we've been having fun with wordplay. Tried and true, raise your hand, right? And then what's become tried and true, and apparently according to you, two tried and two true, the pulling the popsicle sticks. Fair enough. Although I do like variations of the popsicle stick pull. My favorite one being, this is who I want to call on. Oh, look, it's your name.
Right.
Because I don't need to read the popsicle stick.
Because you as the teacher now.
Yeah, I know what's up. So you want to put those aside. Go.
Well, somebody called them equity sticks one time, and I thought it was kind of funny.
Interesting.
Yeah, they were totally against it and called them equity sticks.
Yeah. Because it's a way of managing you. It's actually not. It's because you're not.
See, I'm going to go where you're going to go.
The judgment.
Go to Wonder. Your classroom environment.
Alfie, where are you?
If your classroom environment is established with safety and support and wonder and curiosity, relationship, all of those wonderful things, if that's established, you're not going to need trust. You're not going to need to elicit student responses. Your students will be independently and actively engaged in their learning in different ways.
This is why we have Alfie, because this is the ideal world of rainbows and butterflies and unicorns.
But is it ideal if we know it can happen and we should do it?
Yeah, ideal doesn't mean unreachable.
Right.
Utopia means unreachable.
Right. So the ideal, knowing best practices and implementing them into our classroom, would be to have such an engaged classroom environment that students are leaders of their learning rather than receptors of their learning.
Davey, help, Davey.
Look it up. They're rather than receiving their learning. Receptacles. So I would say, instead of considering the methods and practices by which you're trying to determine student response, I would say change your instruction to elicit student response.
Yeah, and I can add.
Go. Yeah, I'm done now.
I think it's a great question, whether it's from a non-educator or educator. The idea is, the underlying idea is, how bracketed are we engaging students?
Yes.
And so I've been having this conversation recently a bunch because I think most of you know this, supervised student teachers, we liaise with communities and schools. And so I observe student teachers a lot, and I give them feedback, and we try to construct. And I find a lot of student teachers who are trying to balance that. I want rich, authentic dialogue in my classroom of first graders, yet I can lose them in a heartbeat if I don't do raise hands or something a little bit more behaviorist, right? Because I need they go nuts. So how do I balance
the way they demonstrate?
Yeah, and so having this conversation about saying, hey, I want popcorn answers. Everybody can shout out. I'm going to pick a few of them and put them on the chart. This is a lot about how you communicate with students, and you communicate what you want. Or I'm about to ask a question, and it's really important that everyone has a chance to think. So right now we're going to do hand raising, silent hand raising, and here's why. And here's why we're going to do that. And so but this time everybody yell out, or this time I want you to turn and tell your partner or friend, tell your friend an answer, or talk about it with your partner. Or this time I want us to write it down and answer, or so there's those kinds of things. There's nothing wrong with hand raising and popsicle stick pulling, and there's nothing wrong with yelling out either. But there is something from a teaching perspective, and you could argue with me that I'm being too behavioristic or whatever, and that's the theme today. But there is something to be said for, okay, I want I want people to raise their hands with an answer, and then someone calls out an awesome answer, and you take it and run. Right. And there's 4 kids sitting there like, wait, you said raise your hand. Well, you don't do what you say you're going to do.
Right.
You don't follow through. So there's
consistency and expectation.
Yeah, this is about you as a communicator.
Yes.
It's about you as a communicator. So, and then I also want to say that, like Lisa, you couldn't have led to this more brilliantly. I would not be good on this radio show without Lisa. And I don't even know if I'm good, but I wouldn't even have good thoughts. So thank you for that. Well, so text-based protocols.
Right.
There's my term. And if you type in text-based protocols to Google, you should come up with, I just recently, a teacher and I did this, you should come up with the Transforming Schools Initiative. What's it called? Well, I'll type it in a minute. Okay. Let me just finish. In a Socratic seminar, for instance, there's a whole way of how we speak, when we speak, to whom we speak, and how we answer questions. There's a process and procedure set up that is different from. If you type in text-based protocols, you're going to get, I'm typing it right now, because
the typing and talking thing at the same time.
Typing thing, period, for me. You should get right to National School Reform Faculty. That's what I was looking for.
Right.
They've got great stuff. And just the first 4 things that come up, you get lists of protocols for creating class discussions. And we do some of them in meetings that we have, but take one, give one, final word. There's all these different protocols. Right. And they lay out, like, here's the structure of the classroom today. They communicate with students. If you're looking for authentic learning, you've got to set up an environment with authentic learning can occur. If you're doing I'm in front of the classroom, I ask a question, you respond. This is the ping pong soccer. Have we had that conversation?
I don't know.
So for me, philosophically, this is the idea of like ping pong. If Lisa and I were playing ping pong, pretend you have a ping pong towel, just play it. I hit it, she hits it back. I hit it. Oh, you missed that. No, we hit it back and forth, right? And I'm the teacher, she's the student. I ask a question, she responds. Maybe I hit it to somebody else, they respond. That's the paradigm within which we raise our hands. The paradigm where it's a soccer ball or a basketball, you can understand basketball. So I give a nice chest pass to you, you catch it. I'm not I'm only one person on the team. You're going to pass it to someone else. Maybe we want 5 passes. I like that idea. Maybe we want 5 passes. Hoosiers style, Gene Hackman, great movie.
Before the shot,
Before we come back to the point guard or whatever, however we're going to do that. In soccer, everybody touches the ball. Like no one, they respond to each other.
Right.
You have to teach kids to do that. I've seen it in kindergarten, so I don't want to hear it. It's possible. It's ideal, and it happens. If you want to generate learning, if you want to generate ideas, and you want to get away from you need to set that up, and you need to teach kids how to do it. Yeah.
And you need to teach kids how to do it. I'm so glad you said that.
Thanks.
You have to teach students how to do it, because especially in the beginning, in the primary grades, or in the intermediate and junior high and secondary grades, if you don't have students who have experience with that kind of conversation or with those protocols, you do need to teach your expectations and the procedures. But I would also go back to whatever it is that you're doing to gain authentic response from the students, make it purposeful. So if you're, talking about World War II, that's good.
Whoa.
That is what I came to my mind.
Yeah, good luck.
And that's the end of that content knowledge. Okay. If you are talking about World War II and you're hoping to elicit student responses, and you think in your head on the moment, like, oh, turn to your elbow, buddy, because none of them are paying attention, that should be a part of your planning. It should be a part of your planning process to say which method or practice of student response is going to most authentically create the discussion I'm hoping for this lesson specifically. So it should be pre-planned, should be part of your assessment, really.
Sure, and you're planning to check for understanding, which comes back to assessment. You also will learn to do stuff like that on the fly. And go, I don't see engagement, so I'm going to,
knowing your students and knowing the time of day, and if it's right before lunch, those kind of things, all are to be taken into consideration.
And again, still the idea of you being involved in the discussion the whole time is mind-blowing to me. Like, I don't know that you need, the less you're involved in the discussion, the less hand raising there is. So how much small group work is there? How much building? So we have 2 groups of 3 and they become a 6, and then that 6 becomes a 12, or reverse. They start in a 12 and they go 6-3. I'm making up numbers. When am I involved in the dialogue, and how? And how are we using technology to dialogue as well? When are we using clickers and Socrative to have answers come in that way? And how does that
Right.
I don't think I'll push back. I don't think there's anything wrong with this paradigm or with this procedure, but purposeful, meaningful, kids understanding why.
Right.
That's the end of my statement.
Right. So it goes back to the authenticity by which you're hoping to gain student response. And really, before we think about method, we have to think about environment. What environment am I setting up for my students?
Yeah.
So I would say don't think about that particular question as much as you're thinking about what have I established in my environment that can lead to particular practices in student response.
How are students being served and communities? Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you in the fall, and we'll see you throughout the summer randomly. Right. Please continue to send in questions. Please let us know what we can do. Improvements to the show. That's one season for us. 7 shows, one season. We hope to stick around. I heard a rumor that we're getting sponsors so we can take commercial breaks.
Are we getting sponsors?
No, I made that up. But hey, anyone who wants to sponsor the show, we'll get little commercial breaks. We can.
It's probably not worth your money.
Sip our tea. Well, I don't know, worth money? Like, we'll just put your thing up on the screen and we get to sip our tea on the side while the tea break. Anyway, we do have to go. Thank you so much for being engaged and involved in our spirit fingers.
This is clapping and sandwich.
Right, but
showing celebration.
Okay, we'll clap. Yeah.
We're so excited you guys come and send in questions. So we'll add all the information in the show notes so you can see that. One of the questions was, you guys talk a lot about books and links and resources. Look in our show notes.
Scroll down.
Scroll down on the YouTube. Click the read more. So come subscribe to us on YouTube. We also have a Facebook channel we put out the show link to.
And podcasts are coming. Pay attention. Those of you who have subscribed, you get stuff from us. Right. Like you get the updates. Right. So subscribe. Have a great summer.
Have a good summer. Take time to relax and rejuvenate. And
thanks for all you do.
Yeah.
We appreciate you.
We do.
And in a world, let's see if I can remember it. In a world where everything's dichotomized, I'm just going to change it. Everything's dichotomized out there, and we're looking for black and white answers. There's a lot of gray. So we really appreciate you engaging and living in a world where we question and wonder and dialogue and work together to come up with ideas and try them out.
Great ideas.
Teach Talk. See you soon. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye, guys. Happy